This is going to be your guide to the best junglers for the upcoming Pokemon Unite ranked season, and this is where things get a little weird because Season 2 begins before Wednesday, so if there's going to be a balance change, it's going to affect the list, but I want to have this list out so when people are just flooding ranked at the season's change, then they'll have an idea as to what's going on. Also, if you have not hit Master Rank or high ranks by now, you really want to because 20,000 AOS tickets, so 2,000 upgrade tokens for 99.9% of people, you want to hit Master, and this video will help out since the list is going to be viable, since there's going to be no changes from now until then. And another thing is that it's going to be at 5 p.m. Pacific time, November 7th, so Sunday, a week from now. It's not going to be like at midnight or something, so the timings, as long as you're aware of them, that's going to be pretty cool, but then depending on like the patches and stuff, this list might change a little, but all you need to know is if a Pokemon gets nerfed, it goes down a little bit. If Pokemon gets buffed, it might go up a little bit. Let's talk about the best junglers in Pokemon Unite. In order, number 1, Zera Aura. This Pokemon is absolutely insane. Now that Lucario got nerfed, Zera Aura is just the best Pokemon in the game. So by putting Zera Aura into the jungle, you're giving it all of that experience, and you're hitting your level 6, 8, and 10 power spikes at a pretty good time. Really, the only drawback to Zera Aura is that you don't have a level 9 Unite move like Cinderace, so depending on how it goes, first Dreadnought or the follow-up fight could get a little weird, but once you hit level 10, pretty much the game is over, and even from level 3 to 6, you have really good ganking with Slash. You get a knock-up with Slash, done. You get an agility to get onto a target, done. And Zera Aura is just cracked, so you have all that healing from your passive, crazy amounts of auto attack damage, and if you just go into pretty much any lane, you're going to find some KOs with the Zera Aura. After you hit level 6, go Spark, Volt Switch is trolling, then you can just like super extendo jump onto people, and then you hit level 8, and you win team fights, and that's just going to be Dreadnought. So your objective is hit level 8 for Dreadnought, win the team fight, get Dreadnought. Well, now you're pretty much level 10 off all that experience. Go to Rotom, and then shenanigans ensue. You carry the game, pop your Unite move, almost on cooldown because it just comes up super fast. It's one of the fastest charging Unite moves, mostly because Zera Aura is a speedster. Make sure you have it for Zapdos. United Zapdos, win the game. GG, easy. But yeah, just like Zera Aura's ganking pressure is really good, and then it also scales into just team fights incredibly well because Discharge is busted. Next up, we have Lucario. I don't know why there is not a lot of Lucario jungle because this Pokemon is an S tier jungle and definitely the second best jungle in the game because after you do first clear, you have level 5. Level 5 Lucario power spike is absurd. It's filthy. It's despicable. You run into a lane, you extreme speed through them, you meteor mash them into the Pokemon you're ganking for, and then you just rake in kills. Also, depending on the timing, that means Vespiquen comes up, Lucario insta-takes the Vespiquen, and then you go back into your jungle and you hard scale, and if you hit level 9 for Dreadnought, yeah, you're 100% securing Dreadnought, because the secret to Lucario is that you use your Unite move point blank on the objective. You get like 3 ticks on it, so that's a very good execute Unite move right there. And if you also hit someone, it resets your extreme speed. Never pick Power Punch. Power Punch has always been bad and trolling. Now, this list is made for solo queue because that's what most players are going to be playing, but honestly, there's no real change between solo and 5 stacks from the jungle. Like, 1-1-3 versus 2-1-2 could have some interesting matchups, but you don't only have to go Lucario. Mr. Mime, Snorlax, Cramorant, Sylveon, Greedent, I've even seen some Zera Auras go on top now. Like, all of those are possible, so if you don't have a Lucario in your 1-1-3, then throw it in the jungle. Or if your jungle somehow doesn't know how to get Zera Aura to work and screws it up, maybe Lucario is more for them, and then you can send Zera Aura into the solo lane. There's a lot of weird things that happen in the game. It's not as binary as people are making it. So yeah, Lucario can just go anywhere. It can gank the one lane and then just guarantee a KO in the 1-1-2, take Vespiquen, do another loop, hit level 7, and then go get like a triple or quadra-kill bot. Also, like, a lot of jungles are just, like, 2v2ing top in the 1-1-3, so Lucario wins 2v2 from the jungle with pretty much any other Pokemon, and it even has a good chance in, like, a 3v4 or a 4v4 or some, like, weird stuff that's happening in the bot lane. So, yeah, like, Lucario just comes in, extreme speeds every target, meteor mashes them into the team, which is also going to be crowd control and follow-up damage. They CC them, Lucario gets more extreme speeds, and that's just a multi-kill. Lucario ganking at level 5 is pretty much a guaranteed multi-kill, and it's Lucario. It's still really strong in the late game, and maybe with the Steadfast nerf, it's even safer in the jungle, because you're really just going to be poking your head out every minute or so to gank. So if the Steadfast goes down, you just go back, take some jungle, maybe support the team a bit, and then next fight it's back up anyways, instead of like leaving yourself more vulnerable in lane to ganks and dives and all kinds of weird stuff. The only thing is maybe just playing around the Dreadnought, like make sure you still have Steadfast for Dreadnought, you're good to go, and then Lucario just hard carries late game if it gets ahead anyways. So yeah, that's all, like it's one of the best gankers, and it's also just one of the best carries in general, which is why I have it at number 2. Number 3 is Cinderace, because Cinderace scales like a mofo. You hit level 9, you get disgusting amounts of crit, you start getting into like crazy amounts of damage, and then you have your Ignite move, every objective is secured, almost every team fight is winnable, and you just go and kick for crazy amounts of damage. Pyro Ball starts scaling, you get the upgrade. Like, Cinderace is just one of the best Pokemon in the game. So as you can see, there seems to be an overlap between best Pokemon and best junglers, because if you just get that experience onto them, they're going to hard carry, except for Garchomp. We're going to talk about Garchomp later. Not viable in jungle. Spoiler alert. But not really, because I'm not explaining why yet. So, I mean, like, yeah, you put Cinderace in the jungle, if it gets a good gank, if it doesn't fall behind, if your team keeps up with it, and then Cinderace is just, like, the highest level on your team, in going into Dreadnought, hits that level 9 power spike, like, you just win the game, because now Cinderace becomes unstoppable and just completely takes over. The best way I can describe Cinderace in the current state of Pokemon Unite is like old school full build Vayne or Twitch, to where if they are left unattended at all inside the fight, the game is just over. And also, Cinderace can be really slippery and hard to deal with. There's a few Pokemon that can handle Cinderace, like a Garchomp, a Machamp, but they need to be using their Ignite move, or just Zera Aura. Zera Aura existing can just like 3-jump onto the Cinderace, so even if it tries to like flash away or something, Zera Aura still gets on. Discharge nukes it, and then if it's super far ahead, you use your Ignite move. So like that for removing the Cinderace is about it. Other times, like, the duels get really weird. Even Lucario, like, landing a full extreme speed combo, like, extreme speed, bone rush, extreme speed, jump to bone rush, extreme speed kind of idea. Like, that might not KO the Cinderace, or one of those could miss or something, and then also Cinderace, like, lifesteals and stuff. So then Cinderace just kicks down Lucario and kites it out super hard. So, like, sometimes it gets super weird. And then if a team fight gets really ugly and you have like Eldegoss using Unite move, you got Cinderace using its Unite move, everyone else is popping off, maybe there's another support involved, then Cinderace is going to be very, very difficult to kill. And since it has like the best DPS, it's going to be able to tick down the shields on the enemy team a lot harder, and Zera Aura is more about the burst. So yeah, if it Pyro Balls like more than one person, gets its Unite move off, and then just like kicks people the rest of the fight, fight's over. Cinderace wins. Next up, we have Talonflame. So Talonflame is just nutty on that fly. Like, you fly in, you flame charge out, you wait a couple seconds, you fly in, team fight's over. Talonflame has a very unhealthy play pattern right now, but it's just really good. Like, yeah, you fly in, you nuke people, and depending on the situation inside the team, you could just be uncatchable, or you just win the fight because it's so much damage off the fly. But the biggest problem with Talonflame is that it needs to get to level 7 before it can do any of those things, and it doesn't gank as good as Lucario, Zera Aura, even some of the Pokemon below it. If you're ganking the right lane with a lot of crowd control or a little bit of burst, then Raboot comes in and it can actually like kind of clean up the fight and then Giga Scale from there. It's not the greatest ganks, but Talonflame's ganks as like a Fletchinder don't really exist. So you're not going to be there for like that early game pressure. You really just want to counter gank and hope for the best. Like, yeah, if the 2v3 starts to turn a little bit and then you come in with like your AoE hits, then you might be able to do something, and then like again you Giga Scale and now you're unstoppable with fly. But for the most part, you need to be passive. While they're ganking, consider taking the core fish in the center, try to stay safe, wait for your second rotations. You put the team behind pretty far early, but then that's when you're just on the map perma-ganking, perma-camping people. And if you secure the first Dreadnought, then Talonflame makes up for any disadvantage that you might have had and puts the team ahead, and then stays ahead. Talonflame gets ahead and stays ahead, and then the game is pretty brutal. So that's kind of where we're at with the Talonflame, not really too much else to say. Number 5, I personally think Machamp is one of the best junglers. I was thinking about this, and I feel like it's going to be easier to justify once we start like putting other Pokemon in other places and stuff, because Machamp in that late game, when it uses its Unite move, it gets to take out at least 2 people. It goes punch, punch, dead, punch, punch, dead, while using its abilities, while all supercharging the Unite move, and then it finishes off with its Unite move, and like it just takes out entire teams. And if you get a multi-hit with your blows on the Unite move, that's just a Giga 1 super infinity over team fight. There's nothing that can be done about it. But also, Machamp has a really nasty level 5 gank. You flash submission, and that's like, you know, going flash with a knockup from Vi or flash from a knockup from Gragas. There's nothing you can really do from it. It just appears, you're yoinked, and then you're gone. Or at least that's going to be a flash blown, and in Pokemon Unite, there's enough mobility to where if you get pulled back and then have to flash out, there's still a good chance you get just KO'd. Also, you can just kind of use your submission to run through their Flux Zone, steal their Citrus Berries, and that just makes it even easier to follow up on the gank or like hard camp them. And then you just punch down the Vespiquen, go for your rotations. It does take a little bit of time to scale, but overall, an all-rounder with good, consistent DPS that can be really sticky that also provides CC, it's going to be insane. And then you just need to save your Unite move for the very most important fights. Like, use it at Rotom if you don't. Like, you can actually lose Dreadnought and then just completely change the game with a huge team fight Unite move around Rotom. And even if you get 2 Unite moves in the game, you know, kind of late and then also for Zapdos, that's still enough to win on the Machamp. So you can get lanes ahead with the Machamp, just kind of hang around for a bit, still be useful in fights without Unite move, but then have the biggest game-deciding team fights with the Machamp. So it ganks well, and then it also Giga Scales into the late. It can be a very proactive jungler, which is what puts it ahead of something like a Garchomp, and it's also just a very strong, underrated Pokemon. This is where Machamp belongs, and this is also where nerfs can get pretty significant. If Talonflame gets nerfed, if they touch Cinderace again, Zera Aura, I am baffled that Zera Aura has not been nerfed and has only had wild charge buffs since its released. If anything happens here, like maybe Machamp slides in and then becomes like the new meta jungler or something, or maybe it's just like the best niche pick that few people pick, but still like super good, kind of like I'm trying to think of a League of Legends comparison, and the best ones I have are Hecarim and Ivern. That if I have an Ivern on my team, I'm happy. This guy has to know what he's doing, and he's probably just going to be like a super carry support from the jungle or something. And it's the same thing if I see it on the enemy team. I'm like, oh no, this guy knows how to play Ivern. That's going to be annoying. And I'm talking like not even after the nerfs or before the buffs or whatever that made like Ivern really good. I'm just talking about if you're playing like Season 9, late Season 9, Season 10, and there's a random Ivern in your game, he's probably going to be really good. Same thing for Hecarim. Like, if Hecarim isn't in the meta and someone picks Hecarim, I am like, okay, that's their comfort pick, and they're probably still going to carry on it. That's Machamp. If Machamp is like your super comfort and you solve everything about Machamp jungle, I think that definitely puts it in one of the best jungles. And then we fall into the next tier. I'm going to put Charizard here because Charizard is one of the best Pokemon in the late game. Like, once it uses its Unite move, there's really not much you can do about it, and it's going to melt a team, and it's just one Pokemon. So it's creating havoc, it's wrecking people, and then the rest of the team fight is also playing out, while you really can't do anything about Charizard. So it completely breaks the game once it uses its Unite move. Problem is, Charmander lane is suffering, and I don't like it in the jungle because pretty much what you need to assume is that for the rest of the video, if it's not these 4, it's almost not worth picking. Like, yeah, there are cases for it. Yes, Charizard can carry. Yes, X Pokemon from the jungle can carry. I don't care if you do great on it. I know that you can do something with it. But overall, these Pokemon are just always going to be better for pretty much every game in every situation. So I don't want to repeat myself too much. Yes, I understand that you got 24 kills with Charizard jungle, so you put it as the best jungle or the second best jungle or something. That's just not how every game breaks down, and also that's just the nature of Pokemon Unite. If any Pokemon snowballs, it can get 20 kills. Especially if you're going up against children, like it could have also been a scuffed team, it could have just been an out-of-control game, it could have just been a team gap or something. So I mean, like when someone's like, well, I got all these kills, it doesn't really change where the Pokemon is or belongs on a tier list. That's kind of it. However, Charizard, like if you can scale it to that Unite move, then it gets crazy. Problem is, weak ganks, kind of awkward clear, really just puntable wherever role it goes. But then if it clutches a kill, like if it ganks into a strong lane or uses that 3v2 advantage to really capitalize, okay, now Charizard's scale. Now Charmeleon's in the game. Now we're really close to Charizard. Oh man, their lane, like you have a Cinderace in lane or something, or you just have like a good Pokemon for taking Dreadnought. Oh man, Cramorant stole Dreadnought with a Surf and now Charizard evolved. Game's over. Like, that's, like, Charizard needs to get carried from the jungle for the first couple of levels, and then it starts to become the carry. And then we have Gengar. Now, Gengar is a good jungle. The problem is, it doesn't gank that well, but I think it has a stronger level 7 power spike than most Pokemon. Then it hits level 9, and then if it's ahead, the game is just over. So, Gengar's Sludge Bomb Hex, please, do not run anything but Sludge Bomb Hex. Like, you might have a bad take on Gengar's because everyone you see, like, oh, well, I just trash on Gengar every time it's on the opposing team. Well, that's probably because it's going Shadow Ball, Dream Eater, and that's just completely useless. Or the Gengar that was useless on your team didn't have Sludge Bomb Hex, so it couldn't take over team fights. I have seen just Gengars really pop off even after the nerf. Like, it's still possible now. Even if there's, like, weird CC on the team or even if something's happening, Gengar can still pop off. Also, like, Fluffy Tail into the Sludge Bomb, into the Hex, onto the Dreadnought. You get that secure. Now everyone's ahead, and now you're going to be carrying even harder. Also, you have a good steal chance on the Zapdos. You Night Move in, they can't see you. You got a chance. If you're ahead, it's just the best secure as well. While I think that Gengar can have a higher ceiling than Charizard, I think it also has a much lower floor. Like, if they have a Wigglytuff and the Wigglytuff just sticks next to the carry, you really don't have too many options as the Gengar to Hex in, because Wigglytuff's Q-Charm is going to cancel that, and then you just get blown up. The lifesteal buffs, I don't think really made too much of a difference, but the thing is, like Charizard, it's just going to get there, and it's going to be reliable. Gengar, it can have a completely flop game and just be like the most useless thing, or it can be the super awesome Mega Giga carry. It just doesn't really have too much of a 5 gank. It can go south, but then you hit level 7 and you still haven't turned on just yet. Like, yeah, you have Sludge Bomb Hex at level 7, but it can be sometimes an underwhelming amount of damage unless you hit multiple people. But once Gengar gets that level 9, it's also super crazy, super good. And I think just kind of needs to wait a little bit. That if, again, one of these Pokemon kind of gets a touch up, a little bit of a nerf, Cinderace, Talonflame, Zera Aura, then Gengar has a better case because if it's power neutral compared to everything else on the buffs or on the nerfs, then yeah, it just gets stronger by proxy and now can scale a little bit better or has a bit more reason to pick over some of these other Pokemon. I also think that once you get out of the top 4 Pokemon, in coordinated play, all the other junglers can perform better, but not like enough to beat it. It's not like, oh man, Gengar in 5s is now the second best jungler, or any Pokemon 5s is going to be the second best jungle. But the idea is like, hey, play safe. This level 5 gank, I'm not feeling it right now, you know, just maybe try to get some pressure. I'll show up for Vespiquen, don't overcommit. That's pretty much the idea, is like, whenever jungler shows up, you just all in and hope for the best. And because you got the numbers advantage, if one of you peels back and then the other people go in, like, you just have to commit. Like, you have to commit to a jungle gank. But if you're like in 5-man comms, you have like a strategy rehearse, it's like, nah man, let me scale on some of these Pokemon. We can try to go for a little bit of pressure, but if it goes bad, we need to just give it up. You know, that I think that's going to make it to where these Pokemon don't fall behind or have a more strategic way of getting ahead. Alright, next up, we have the Cramorant. Cramorant is super slept on as a jungle, and it is filthy. The Whirlpool takes out the big camps almost instantly, and you have the advantage of being a Pokemon that doesn't evolve, and you can gank at level 4. So that's also another weird thing about Zera Aura. Zera Aura wants all the experience and levels in the jungle, but it can also just take one Corphish and then head down, because at level 4, Zera Aura is fine. You're not getting your Spark until level 6, so you can just kind of do whatever with effectively the same thing and just slightly less stats, because the stat scaling in the early game is also really low. So the difference between level 4 and 5 Zera Aura gank isn't really that much, except for maybe evolving to level 6 mid-gank or something. And with Cramorant, you come in with Hurricane, and if you get 1 or 2 knockups, that's just the fight. Hurricane into the Whirlpool, 2 other Pokemon dive onto it, you just win. Also, you can use Hurricane on their goal, you can put Whirlpool on their goal, and then they can't stay safe. You can keep diving them, you can keep applying pressure. You instant take the Vespiquen, you wrap back around into the jungle, and then you clear all the camps, and you go out for ganks, and then you just perma-gank from there until Dreadnought, and then boom, level 9 Unite move. You keep anyone off of any objective, any point, any contest, you pick up KOs inside of a hectic team fight. Like, putting Cramorant there is going to be pretty crazy. The biggest problem with Cramorant in the jungle, though, is that it has pretty much no pressure for taking objectives. You get soloed by Rotom. You can't do anything to Dreadnought. The best you can hope for is like a random steal as like the Surf comes back into a Hurricane and like the same tick onto Zapdos, if like you're trying to like desperately come from behind. So I mean, like, your secure potential isn't really there, so you kind of have to build a team composition around it. But it's like, yo, Lucario top, Zera Aura bot, Cramorant jungle, and then like 2 supports or something, or a tank and a support somewhere. There we go. You might also need a Cinderace, so like Cinderace, Lucario bot, Zera Aura, Eldegoss top, and something, and then Cramorant in the jungle, or just maybe switch lanes. I don't know. I haven't thought about it too much, but like you build the comp around Cramorant, and that's really good. But the reason why I have Cramorant here is so good of a jungle is because Hurricane. Like, you land the Hurricane at the max range pretty much off screen, that knocks people up, and then the gank is won. You just get those kills, and now your team is ahead. So it's a really good enabling jungle, but then it kind of, you know, levels off. Like, Cramorant is super strong while ahead. If you have a 2-level advantage on someone, you hit them with a Surf Hurricane, that's 80% of their health. Now, you might not be able to get the insta-kill off of it, because Cramorant needs, like, a lot of team play and a lot of team follow-up. But if you get to that point, and your team is also keeping up with you, and because of your ganks, you put them ahead of the enemy team, yeah, then you just win the game off of the Cramorant, but it just doesn't have, like, as much late game. So the hope is you get so impossibly far ahead that then you can kind of still take the Zapdos comfortably with the rest of the team comp you have around it. So you can, and also, like, that does sound like Fives kind of thing, but I mean, you can just splash in the Cramorant. Like, if everyone wants to stay off the jungle and you play Cramorant or something, you can put it into the jungle and still be decent enough on it. But yeah, I think it's slept on, and it can still do some pretty nasty things, which brings us to the Greninja. Why put Greninja in the jungle? Like, why pick Greninja if there's not a Cinderace on your team? Like, if Cinderace isn't in the jungle, why are you putting Greninja in the jungle? It doesn't make any sense right now. Cinderace is just so much better than Greninja in all situations. There isn't a Cinderace on the team. Why are you picking Greninja, even for lane or anything like that? And then once again, like, Lucario ganks nastier, Zera Aura just Giga carries, Talonflame takes over the game after level 7, Charizard, if you go for that Unite move, you got it. And it is more proactive. Like, a gank from a Frogadier, while it's not super duper threatening, it can at least apply pressure because you have the double team or you have the smoke screen. Now, what I have noticed is that it just kind of shows up at the right time for the level 5 gank. It gets a good flank on, it might just like appear out of nowhere because of the smoke screen or something, or a double team comes flying in, and then it's like, oh, if it gets its third auto attack in melee range, it's kind of like secure kill right before the goal, that's pretty good. Bubble is nice little damage, like it's good upfront damage than a couple auto attacks, so it contributes to the gank, but the problem is, if it becomes an even fight, like if it gets counter ganked, and now we're in a 3v3, Frogadier is going to be having a very bad day because it's so squishy, and after it blows cooldowns, it can't really do anything. So it can be proactive, but it can also go really south, and then having it around at the Dreadnought fight, it's just not as good as having other Pokemon around at the Dreadnought fight at level 8 or level 9, because like you can get that level 9, you can get that Unite move before Dreadnought, but I'd rather have a Cinderace there, I'd rather have a Lucario there, or a Talonflame, or any other Pokemon, even Gengar. So yeah, like, it can do its things, and then it has, like, that monstrosity carry from the late game, but you want to be running Surf in that case, so you can get the reset chains, but it's just not really there. Like, throw it in lane, find a way to get it through lane, and then you're going to have a better time. And then we have Venusaur, pretty much for the same ideas. Like, just throw Venusaur into a lane with the support and chill there for a bit and absorb pressure, and then make sure your jungle gets ahead enough to get Dreadnought, and then Venusaur is back in the game, and then just starts taking over and getting ahead from there. Putting Venusaur into the jungle, there's very little proactivity. If it gets KO'd in a gank, if it falls behind for any reason, it's just completely out of the game. So it's, again, the idea of like, oh, you put all the experience in there to scale. It can work. Actually, no, I don't even agree with Venusaur here. I think Blastoise is just going to be a better jungle. It's like, yeah, Blastoise scaling, like, getting Blastoise ahead is super nasty, but if something goes wrong, you still have a Blastoise. The Unite move is ridiculous, the Surf is ridiculous, the Hydro Pump is ridiculous. You just push them into your team. Like, you know, you just knock people up, you get forever CC, you Hydro Pump them into a wall, you Hydro Pump them into your team, and, like, you also have pretty decent ganks. But, again, like, you're not a hyper carry. Putting a tank in the jungle, like, you can do that. You can put some supportive stuff in there. It can get kind of weird, and it can take over the game. And there was the point, like, before the Blastoise nerf, or like the bug fix, where the auto attack was going inside the water spout. Before that, it was like S tier jungle. It was like one of the top 3 picks. You put Blastoise in jungle, you go rapid spout, and then you roll over the enemy team with that advantage, but it doesn't really do that as much anymore. However, it still has like really good pressure, and if it's ahead, oh, that Surf Hydro Pump is still bursting a bit. Oh, that Unite move is really ouchy, still even a little bit after the nerf. So like, yeah, before the Hydro Pump nerf, maybe here, or not Hydro Pump nerf, before the Surf Unite move nerf here, after here, still better than most picks, but like, yeah, you can. Like, if your team really needs it, or if you're really specialized on it, you can do some cool stuff. But then, like, if it scales and it's like, oh, now it's unkillable, has burst for some reason, and it also has enough crowd control to lock down the entire team fight, you kind of want that. So that's alright to have from the jungle. But with the current state of the jungle, you really want super proactive hyper carries with very good objective taking abilities, or just strong Pokemon in general, but then it just kind of like starts to flip over. So now let's talk about the meme tier jungles that I think are viable in like certain circumstances, and if I see them, as long as they straight up don't troll, I'm not against it. Like Eldegoss. But Verlisify, you consider putting Venusaur here. Nah, I actually consider like Venusaur in the bottom tier with these other Pokemon. Like this, we're going to talk about that. But like Eldegoss, I've seen Eldegoss jungle. You've probably seen an Eldegoss jungle. It did some weird stuff, right? Yeah, like Eldegoss, it can be very low experience, very low resource, and then still like do really good stuff because you just have the base stats on the shielding and the healing and the Unite move or something. But if Eldegoss just like comes out and makes your team twice as tanky because it's ahead that much from the jungle, and you kind of get into that scaling position. Like, I think the idea of the Eldegoss jungle is that you just have so much supportive capability, especially with the early Unite move, that Dreadnought is yours, pretty much no matter what. Like, you can just outlast a fight forever. Eventually they have to base. Eventually they run out of citrus berries. Eventually they just get worn down to where you have a very safe Dreadnought take, and now everyone's ahead, and then maybe you like swap off the jungle, you start giving it to your other carries or something, but you're mostly just kind of there, hit level 8, do some weird swappy stuff, bulk up a lane, and then just be a wall, just push it down. Be the unstoppable force that takes that lane, gets that lane ahead, and then now you can kind of swap back into a supportive role. Or you even go Leaf Tornado, and then you have a surprising amount of damage because you're ahead, and Pokemon Unite is weird. I don't know, like, it works. I don't know how it works, I just know that it works, and it's one of those like, niche good. That's what this is. This is niche good tier. Probably not better than any of these picks under any circumstance, but like, if I see this, I'm like, alright. That's, again, kind of like the Ivern idea, where it's like, alright, I see what you're up to. I'll have faith. And if you keep that faith, then we're good to go. Same thing on the Sylveon. Sylveon turns on super early, provides a lot of pressure. I'd prefer it in lane. Like, level 4 lane that gets as much damage as Sylveon does from the Hyper Voice. Oh my goodness, that's amazing. Also, it really helps with, like, the split experience in the 1-1-3 and stuff. So, like, yeah, Sylveon gets there, and boom, GG easy. However, from the jungle, good enough clear. Like, you're a little slow on the Eevee. I don't know about the fluffy tail though, because like I feel like you want full heal or something so you can just keep the pressure on where you want to be. So I don't know about the items, but I know that if Sylveon gets ahead, it's ridiculous, and once it hits level 4, its clear becomes absolutely insane, and that level 4 gank is going to be really good. Level 4 gank, you just put so much damage pressure onto them, they can't get Vespiquen, and they can't even contest it because your Hyper Voice is so spammable with so much damage. And you go back in jungle, and then you can Hyper Gank. So it is like a second clear hyper ganker, and then it also secures Dreadnought and does a lot of things, but it's not first clear. Even then, like, Talonflame is the exception. Like, all these other Pokemon are good first clear ganks, even like the Machamp or something. So like, first clear gank, super duper important. Talonflame is the exception because that fly is too ridiculous. But with Sylveon, like, yeah, you can actually get a decent enough first gank. It doesn't have crowd control, but if you go into a heavy crowd control lane, like, you just pop someone, and then you get the Vespiquen, and then you take out center, and then like, Sylveon works in the jungle. It might actually be a lot higher on this list, but this is also kind of like the jungle priority list, and the priority is lower because Sylveon is also really insane inside the lane, and if you have a Zera Aura that's also scaling and effectively becoming like a melee Sylveon inside the jungle or something, which is how crazy it is, yeah, then like, that's fine. Just have the Sylveon lane backing up the Zera Aura gank, and then you're both ahead. GG. But the theory on Sylveon jungle is really cool. Like, if there's any kind of experience nerf in the jungle, I think Sylveon gets a lot more powerful inside of it because then everyone else kind of shuffles around a bit. Or if, like, any of the top junglers just end up getting nerfed as well, it's like, have that as a pocket pick. I don't think, like, we're going to have draft or banning for a long time inside of Pokemon Unite. That system seems a little too complex for what Pokemon Unite is going for. But, like, I think there is something here. But it's like, don't pick Sylveon jungle if there's someone else on your team that wants jungle and is hovering like the Talonflame, Cinderace, Lucario, Zera Aura. Just let that be. But like, Sylveon can be super nasty in the jungle. Now, this is where things get hard. So this is going to be effectively like viable jungles. Like, Mr. Mime can jungle, and Mr. Mime can be effective in the jungle. And some of the scariest jungles I've seen in the game over the last 3 months have been Mr. Mime jungles, because the clap is going to be good for like securing the Pokemon, and then again, you turn on at level 4. You just show up at an early lane with Light Screen Confusion. If you land that, that lane is over. That is a flash. That is Vespiquen. That is potentially a kill. That is potentially, like, just getting another light screen stun under their goal and still KOing them. Like, you get to do weird stuff with the Mr. Mime, but it's kind of, like, wonky and slow and hit or miss and unreliable. Like, if they're just not lined up for the barrier with your gank angle or something, or they just flash out of it, or, like, if it doesn't work, because also barrier can be kind of scuffed. You know, you confusion them into it, and then they don't get stunned, or they, like, slide off to the side or something. So if the gank gets scuffed on Mr. Mime, you're just straight up in a losing position. I feel like there's a lot more forgiveness inside of lane Mr. Mime, to where it's like, yeah, if you miss like one barrier confusion or like one good combo on the Mr. Mime, you're going to recover. It's going to be back up in a few seconds. For Mr. Mime with like the gank, that's how you get into a good position. You know, you sneak in, you gank them, and then you pretty much have that one shot to make it work, unless you overcommit and force the gank. But then you're kind of playing from, again, a behind position. It's not as effective, and Mr. Mime in lane is ridiculous. Boom. Clap. You steal anything you want from the opponent. Boom. Barrier confusion, or even guard swap. I like guard swap, too. Like, guard swap confusion onto a wild Pokemon, boom, that's secured. So Mr. Mime gets to steal everything from the opponents and then still leave like the carry or the laner to take some of the neutral camps on your side, and everyone's ahead and everyone's crazy. But also the filthiness of a Mr. Mime getting the Unite move super early from the jungle and then just showing up at Dreadnought. How do you stop it? You don't. So like the support jungles have these interesting cases to where if they get their Unite move, if they like get to their biggest power spike in the game in 2 minutes and then just trade off the jungle role to someone else that now wants to get back into the game. Like if you secure Dreadnought with a Mr. Mime, an Eldegoss, a Blastoise, a Cramorant, something like that, game's over. Like, you win because now all the Pokemon that wanted to be in the jungle getting that experience have that experience, and then you can pass the experience off to them, and then you win. In theory, Snorlax can jungle, Tackle is a lot of damage, and Tackle is a really good gank. So, I mean, like, you can set up a really good gank on the Snorlax, and if you get Vespiquen into level 6, now you have Heavy Slam, and then you can clear into that and just be, like, kind of crazy. And then, like, hitting that early level 8 for Heavy Slam block, that's pretty good. You might not need your Unite move to win Dreadnought. You can just, like, Heavy Slam, block everyone into Dreadnought. Dreadnought maybe, like, hits the enemy Pokemon or something, and then your team just, like, just hits them while they're perma-CC'd or something, and then you can just get the pressure that way. Like, you can create something in all stages of the game with a Snorlax jungle, but it's not a hyper carry. If Snorlax jungle has levels on the enemy team, or is the highest level on your team, he's not going to be doing as much with that lead as even Venusaur or Cinderace, Talonflame, all the Pokemon we've talked about. But Snorlax does have the ability to clear jungle pretty well and can gank pretty well. After that, we have, like, Mamoswine. Mamoswine, much like Sylveon, I think is just infinitely stronger in the lane. You have 2 pieces of crowd control that you sit on for a while that you get by level 3. Ice Shard, Tackle, and then your auto attack is also crowd control. Now, technically, you have that from the jungle, and it can also be really scary if that, like, Ice Shard comes in from Fog of War and then just, like, stun someone, and then you tackle them, and then, like, just keep going for it. Like, you're getting a KO. You're kind of like a Lucario in the way that when you show up to a lane with that gank advantage, you're getting a KO and most likely a multi-kill, but then why not just run Lucario instead? But also, Mamoswine getting ahead is also pretty oppressive and pretty hard to deal with when you get your high horsepower Icicle Crash combo, and you're using that on objectives or onto goals, and then you just use your Night move and make to where they can't do anything about it, and then you're just unkillably fat because now you have all the defenses and health and stuff from being ahead in levels. Yeah, really good. But again, like, just do that in lane instead. Just shut down an entire lane and scale that way, because Mamoswine gets there. And then, at the bottom of viable jungles, we have Absol. Absol can clear really fast. Absol is made to go center lane. Absol can gank. Problem is, it's a coin flip. If you get lucky and you, like, triple crit someone, and then you get the KO, and then you crit again, and you get the double kill, sweet, you're ahead. Problem is, even when Absol is ahead, it's not winning the game as hard as other Pokemon win ahead. Absol is effectively just like a non-existent Pokemon right now because of how team fights break down. Like, once a buddy barrier pops in a team fight, Absol isn't getting any KOs. Absol doesn't exist. It can, like, work through the buddy barrier, but then it dies instantly because it needs to KO the target. If the target is not removed from the game instantly, Absol, it becomes a 4v5. It does not get to do anything. And also the way that the game plays, like, you're not as reliable as, like, say, sneaking into the back line and then getting a flank onto a Cinderace and then, like, removing Cinderace from the fight. Like, that doesn't happen. Like, whenever there's an Absol on the enemy team, even if it gets the double kill, even if it gets, like, first Dreadnought and it gets super far ahead, it eventually just drops off and it's like, just Unite move or just ignore the Absol, kind of. Like, if you dive on the like, the best thing Absol has is going, like, untargetable for 3 seconds when it uses its Unite move inside the team fight and kind of halting the team fight, but then it gets out and then gets immediately blown up. So, like, you can't... Absol doesn't do anything as a Pokemon, and while it can jungle early, it's like, I feel like it's a toss. And that's something about some of the other Pokemon on this list. They will find their target in a fight, and they have enough tools to be better at getting onto that target. Greninja can, like, smoke screen his way through or surf around and stuff and then actually, like, KO backline. Machamp, you just Unite move and you take the entire backline into the front line and then the game's over. Talonflame has that dive on it. Cinderace has the range, like, as a melee, Absol is just feeling bad. Lucario, it gets in there, can assassinate people. And then as we talked about earlier, like, Zera Aura, just... There's nothing Cinderace can do about Zera Aura, but I've seen Cinderace be able to escape the Absol, especially because, like, Absol's scaling is really weird. So I think it's just too strangely coin flippy, and that's also where Absol just doesn't make any sense. It gets 15% crit from its passive, so it can crit really early from its passive, but then it only gets 10% crit from levels. So... by the time Cinderace is level 9, it just has more crit than the Absol for no reason. Now, Absol does get, like, a lot of scaling off auto attacks and, like, crits baked into its abilities that do, like, even crazier stuff. But, like, overall, yeah, like, Absol can get ahead and it can do things, but then it just doesn't win. It also doesn't really take objectives that good. You can't have Absol as a squishy glass melee, you know, auto-attacking up there on the Dreadnought as safely as pretty much any other Pokemon. Same thing for, like, the Zapdos. Like, what does Absol do with Zapdos? It does nothing. There is absolutely no reliable secure with your Unite move. So best you can do is go invisible, hope that the blades that come out push the opponent far enough to not secure. Like, there's no argument. Like, yeah, the opponent has to misplay for you to get a Zapdos as Absol in a team fight. Now, Absol can maybe try to do something to win the fight and then have, like, a 5-0 take against Zapdos, but if there's a contest going on, what does Absol do? Also, what does Absol do to get in there and try to steal Zapdos compared to, like, some other Pokemon on this list? I don't know about that. After that, we just get into complete meme tier jungles, where at the top, we have these Pokemon. Like, yeah, I've seen them go in the jungle. Yeah, people talk about them going jungle. Just never do it. Just never, ever do it. Like, why is Garchomp in the jungle? Taking away one of these roles. Oh, I want to get to level 10 so I can win the game. No, Gible is actually a disgustingly strong laner. I've done a lot of videos about that one. You can go check them out in the description or something if you don't believe me. Like, if you just Chad 5-stack the Gible through all of your engagements, through all of your wild Pokemon takes and stuff like that, you can win lane on Gible. Gible is a very strong Pokemon in lane. If you are putting Garchomp in the jungle as a crutch because you don't understand how Gible works, that tells me a lot of negative things about you. 1, you're insecure. 2, you actually don't even know how to play Garchomp or, like, scale into the Gible, which means you're probably going to suck at team fights since you need to be, like, babied in the jungle for all that experience. 3, you're selfish. 4, you probably have bad game sense by not identifying how Pokemon can power spike in lane or at their respective roles and succeed at what they're supposed to do. And 5, you kind of need to gimmick to win. I'm not, like, sometimes gimmicks are really good when, like, you get cheesed by some just stupid, uncounterable thing. It's like, oh man, that's just an annoying gimmick. No, what I mean by the gimmick of, hey, I need to stay in here until I hit level 10. But even then, it's not like a good gimmick, but you need to, like, find a gimmick to succeed at all in this game. And the biggest problem is that you have no gank pressure at level 5. What do you do on that level 5 gank? You do nothing. You lose harder at level 5 on that gank than any other jungle Pokemon. Like, damn, even Slowbro is going to have a Surf. So, that's why it's like, no, never pick Garchomp. Actually, I want to put, like, Garchomp just at the very, very bottom. Never pick. You're banned from picking it. Don't do it unless you're trolling. But if you want to troll, then I guess I just gave you really good advice on how to troll. Especially, actually... this is the best troll pick for the jungle because it gives your team hope. All the idiots out there that also have no game sense that think Garchomp jungle is good, they're gonna be like, yo, we're gonna win it and then scale it in, and then it's actually a troll Garchomp, even though every jungle Garchomp is troll. And it's pretty much the exact same thing for Gardevoir. What are you going to do to help your team? Nothing. So it's useless. Venusaur is different because I was talking about it earlier, and like I said, like as I was talking about the negatives of Venusaur jungle, I just kind of like kicked it into unviable tier because it really is. Okay, it gets ahead, and Venusaur while ahead is one of the scariest Pokemon in the game. Cool. And also, you're not really going to be doing anything for your team in the early game, and at least you can survive lane. The reason why Charizard is here is because it can't go anywhere else. The Pokemon practically doesn't exist unless you can put it into the jungle and then scale, and I would consider a Unite moving Charizard scarier than a Unite moving Venusaur. Like, let's say they both have a level advantage on me. Venusaur pops Unite move and then runs in with Petal Dance Giga Drain. Nah, I'm more scared about the guy that just Seismic Tossed me and is now very hard to target while just raining down crazy auto attacks on me and then melting my team around me. So there's not much of a reason to put Venusaur into the jungle, and there's not as much payoff, so I don't really have it as a viable tier Pokemon. Ninetales is a better laner. Like, we're just going to kind of do this rapid fire, I guess. Like, Ninetales is a better laner. I have no idea what Pikachu does. I'd maybe consider Crustle, like, the best of the worst, because, hey, you hit level 6, and then you just come... Like, yeah. And yeah, the first gank at level 5 is possible. It just feels weirder and clunkier than, like, any of these Pokemon. Maybe it works. Maybe it's, like, secretly here, and this needs to be, like, 17, and this needs to be 18 plus. Maybe. Because, like, yeah, you hit level 6 kind of early, and then you just, like, just camp a lane. What are they going to do if they just have a level 7 Crustle running at them, shell smashing, and then, like, X-Scissoring them off of anything they're trying to do? Wild Pokemon, Goal, Vespiquen, and then if it can get to that level 9 by Dreadnought, it just unites on Dreadnought, and that's it. No, never run Stealth Rocks if you ever go Stealth Rock on Crustle or Trolling. Also, this is the mandatory statement. Scorch Shield is bad on any Pokemon in any situation in the game. If you use it, you suck at the game because you have no game sense. It's clear, it's obvious. Don't use it. But yeah, maybe Crustle has something going on. Wigglytuff is meme. Slowbro, I'm going to put it here because, like I said, at least it can gank at level 4. Blissey, and Greedent. So a lot of people are running Greedent jungle. I disagree with it because it has no gank pressure. Now, I have seen like a weird thing where Greedent takes first camp and then trades jungle with a laner and then like just tries to come into lane with an early Covet. I still don't agree with that. Covet's like too slippery to be reliable, so like Greedent doesn't have a super reliable gank. It can be annoying and, like, unkillable just sitting there with a numbers advantage, but, like, what does it do? And I guess you kind of, like, speed up the scaling a little bit to get its Unite move to then be crazy at, like, Zapdos and second Dreadnought and stuff, but I've been completely unimpressed by Greedent Jungle or Greedent Solo Top or something, so it's like, Like, yeah, it's got the Unite move, and there are, like, 1 in 3 fights, it gets, like, the perfect Covet line with, like, the belch timings, and then it, like, melts people, but outside of that, like, the Pokemon doesn't exist. So it has, like, the craziest pop-off moments, but it's also not, like, super giga reliable, which kind of puts it in the same tier as Gardevoir, but it comes online earlier. I don't know, I'm still not sold on the Pokemon, and if I see it in the jungle, it's a complete toss, much like the Garchomp or Gardevoir. I would consider Venusaur a better jungle than it, so there we go, guys. This list, like, I just kind of slapped down, like, yeah, I guess Ninetales coming out is kind of neat, Wigglytuff's kind of neat, yeah. I'm happy with maybe this is the exact ranking for all the Pokemon. And I'd even put Clefable over these two. Like, pick Clefable before you even consider thinking maybe about possibly going Gardevoir or Garchomp jungle. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.